All right. Hello and welcome back to the Bloom and Grow Show. I am so excited to introduce my friend Portia Jackson and have her meet all of you here on the show. Portia, I've had the opportunity to get to know, I want to say maybe like 2 years ago, we've known each other for. It's been a couple
Yeah,
of
I
years,
think it's been
right?
like 2, 3 years. It's been a minute.
Yes, like our paths crossed. We were in the same mastermind together. I've had the opportunity to work with her behind the scenes when she's spoken on stages for conferences that I've produced. She is so brilliant and she's so fun. Like she's like the whole total package. And so when I had my list of people that I wanted to bring on the show, Portia, you were like at the top of it. And so I'm so
Yay.
excited. Yes, I'm so excited for you to just share all things like wealth building and finances and like what we could be doing in our businesses better. And
Of
yeah,
course,
there's
my
just so
favorite
much. We're going
topic.
to go in all the places today. How does that sound?
It sounds great. These are the things I love talking about. I could talk about it in my sleep. I probably do. And I know everything you do is just awesome and fantastic. So I'm just super excited and
Oh,
honored to be a part of it.
no, thank you. Well, I would love for you to just go and share with everyone listening right now, like what it is, like what do you do? Like
Mhm.
what is your whole goal here on like how you like to serve people?
Yeah. So, hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Portia Jackson. I'm a certified financial planner and money coach for online entrepreneurs. And I help them take the money they're making in their business and turn around so that that money can make more money for them. So you can focus on what you're doing best and your money is taking care of your current and future financial goals and needs.
Oh, I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. And one of the cool things I always love it, like when you bring out the doctor, you are a former rocket scientist, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I have my PhD in aerospace engineering. I worked in that field for a while. So I'm very data driven. I love the numbers. I do love space. And really at the end of the day, engineers are just like problem solvers. We're solution seekers. And that's the same thing I do for my clients now. It's just instead of seeking, a solution for, launch vehicles or satellites, I'm now doing it for your wealth and your goals and your money.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love too that you have that corporate background, like as a person
Mhm.
who worked the corporate life for many years. It's interesting. Like I'm not saying it's like a bad thing when I think of entrepreneurs who started out and that's like what their only story, right?
Yeah.
But there's like just certain little things that like you get when you were in your corporate world on like how you like to be really efficient and effective in your meeting times, right?
Yes,
Or
exactly.
like we're very much like very like driven people who were like let's just do this the fastest way possible but also like the highest quality.
Yes, I
Yes.
agree.
Okay, so my question for you is I know you spent some time, so after you left that career you
Mhm.
moved over and you started an agency at one point for financial planners, is that correct? Or tell me a little bit about
Yeah,
that
so it
transition.
has definitely been a winding journey because I'm a woman of many passions and talents, thank the Lord. So yeah, I started off in engineering because I do. I love data. I love the solution solving that we talked about before, the problem solving. And then it just got to the point in life we had just found out that my oldest daughter had pretty severe special needs. So between that and then I was already doing financial classes just because I love the subject so much and what it can do in people's lives. I was already teaching these for free for like my sorority, my church, my community. And then I just like to be the best at what I do, right? I think we're pretty similar in that. So I went out and got my certificate in personal financial planning. And in there, that's where I learned about becoming a certified financial planner, which is like the gold standard of, the financial world. So that way, that they actually have experience and they're not just someone
Mhm.
who read a book and it's like, give me all your money, right?
Yes.
So pursued that, but that's a significant income drop from what I was doing in engineering. So to make up for it, I launched a podcast, started getting into like online marketing and learning that. That led into coaching, which led into managing ads. And I'm like, oh, I love ads and funnels. That led into the agency. I niched down, and my agency was primarily for financial professionals before I decided I'm just going to do this for myself. Good luck to all of you. And I'm going to focus on my clients and getting them their results. And so that's how I ended up where I am today. But I mean, it really all kind of works together in this
Oh yeah.
beautiful harmony, which life tends to do if we don't try to over control it, which I'm also guilty
Yes.
of.
Yes. I love that. Now, what is it that you do today in your business? Like, what are the different ways that people can work with you?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Wealthy and Fulfill because that really is ultimately my goal for all my clients is to be wealthy, whatever that means for them, and fulfilled. Also, a very personal measuring stick for that. And so right now, I'm focusing on one-on-one clients. That's where I see myself having the most joy. I'm really trying to be the best financial coach I can be, and I know that just requires repetition. So despite having years and years of experience in the corporate world with financial wellness and group coaching and speaking on stages, and I still have my one-on-one clients, I just want to continue this path for a while. So it's one-on-one clients. I do small workshops. I'm in the midst of my Journey to Wealth workshop right now. That's a 4-week journey that helps people figure out where they are now, where they want to be, what's the gap in between, and what's the vehicle to get there. I love analogies and like puns. So you give me a good analogy or pun, I'm going to roll with it.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing right now. So it's either the small group workshops or one-on-one.
Oh, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. Do you find a lot of people who come into your small group workshops, like they're almost like kind of sampling the goods a little bit here before they go and move on to be a
Yeah.
one-to-one client? Yeah.
They are. And I did that intentionally because my one-on-one's not the cheapest thing around. And, rightfully so. There's a lot of experience and things that have gone into what I'm able to produce for clients. So that currently is $2K per month with a 3-month minimum. The workshops are currently $997. So it's just like a small way to sample, get some results, and be like, wait a minute, I like her style. I want to keep doing more work with her. And then they can move into one-on-one.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I know from like my marketing standpoint, I have a program called Flourish where I help people go and create their marketing plan in 5 days, for the upcoming year. And there's this obviously not, I say small, it's not small because like your marketing plan should be, balanced and driven by numbers and data
Yeah.
and KPIs. And so there is a financial planning aspect of it. But I'm
Mhm.
curious for you, like usually I walk with people through the program and I have them go back, hey, like look at your revenue for the last 12 months. Like go and look at it, by each month, start to play detective, like what was working then, what were you selling? What was
Yep.
popular? Is this a cycle that you can use for the next year? And so I teach and I walk through people with that. But I'm curious about from your approach,
Mhm.
it's the end of the year right now or about to start 2024. What do you think that people should be focused right now when they're thinking about the wealth and, things that they want to create for the new year?
Yeah, so one of the first places I have all of my clients start when we start thinking about year end, beginning of the year planning, right? You have like this buzzing energy of like, okay, next year is going to be like my year, right?
Yes.
Regardless of how you felt about 2023. But I always start with the feelings because typically, as entrepreneurs and business owners, we're already very goal focused and goal oriented anyway. But sometimes we start to lose sight of the feelings that these goals give us,
Mhm.
right? Or else we get stuck in that cycle of, yay, I did it, cross it off. What's the next goal? And we never really stop and celebrate. So I really have my clients start thinking about, what do you want to feel this time next year? And then from there we work backwards into the goals. So it's like, do you want to feel hopeful? Do you want to feel secure? Do you want to feel whatever their feelings are? And then we tie that to, well, what does that actually mean in real life? When you say secure, are you talking about consistent revenue in your business? Does that mean you're changing your business model? If we're talking about, we want to feel hopeful, does that mean, you have 3, maybe you have, I don't know, twins or something going off to college, but they're in 8th grade right now? Does that mean you're hopeful that they can actually go and you'll be able to afford it? Like, what does that mean? So we start there and then we work backwards to, well, what does that actually mean? Like, how much do you actually have to contribute to your goals to make them happen and be on track? And that is what really drives what their business revenue could be. And I say that because a lot of times people are like, okay, I did, let's just say 100K to keep the math simple. I made
Mhm.
100K, or I'm going to make 100K by the end of 2023. Next year, I'm going to shoot for 125. And I always ask them, why? What is this extra 25K for? Is it just because you're supposed to always be growing year after year? Who
Oh.
told you that? Where did you get that? Is that really what you're going for? Maybe you need 150K to hit your goals for 2024, right? Or maybe it's like you actually don't need to increase your revenue. Maybe you want to stay at 100K, but you want more time with your kids. So maybe instead of working 30 hours a week, you want to make the same revenue and go down to 20 hours a week. So it
I
really
love that.
starts, I have the lifestyle driving the finances, personal finances, and that's what's driving your business revenue. Because
Mhm.
what's funding your personal finances? Your business. And if you're
Yeah.
married and your spouse or your partner or something has a job, that too. But at the end of the day, I'm more of a lifestyle driven planner and coach where it's like, what do you want to experience in life? And let's plan for that versus, okay, here are the numbers. Let's make your life fit inside of here. Like, we're business owners, right? If we need to expand income to do something, we have the ability to do it. It's not like we are capped at a salary or anything like employees. So that's really the process I like to drive people through, is like, what do you want to like experience and achieve and feel in 2024, rather
Mm.
than, well, they said the typical, growth is 20%. So I'm going to shoot for 22%,
Yeah.
It's like, why? If you don't tie it to a meaning, you know, and I'm sure we've all heard of, you know, start with the why, but if you don't tie it to a meaning, it really is irrelevant. But if you tie it to, oh, if I hit this business goal, I get an extra day at home. Or if I hit this business goal, I get to take my parents on a trip. Or if I hit this business goal, I know I can, I don't know, retire my spouse or something a few years early. Or I can bring in
Yeah.
a VA, which takes away all the stuff I'm doing at, you know, 11 p.m. at night if you're a solopreneur. It really ties it to your lifestyle, which makes more of a difference than just a random number on a spreadsheet.
Yes, I love that. I'm also hearing you say like when you do like say have a higher goal, like having a plan, like what are
Yes.
you doing actually with that money rather than having this arbitrary number of growth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a big motivator too for what I do. I see a lot of courses out there. I'm making the money in the business. I see a lot of them out there on like the vision board. And it's like, this is your dream life. But it's like, how do we tie the two together with the financial plan, right? Like we need to tie what it is that you want to achieve, what you're doing with the business with a practical type of thing to get you
Yeah.
there. Cause it's not just gonna, you know, fall out of sky. Or if it does, it might be work for one thing and not another.
Yeah. This also reminds me too of like when I earlier in my business when I would go and set goals that were things that I wanted to achieve, which was more of investing in certain conferences. Like I think
Hmm.
back to when I was in the wedding industry, there was a luxury wedding conference that had like a very steep investment to attend, you know, luxury hotel you had to stay at. Like it was like a
Hmm.
big thing to be working towards. And I remember like when I like mapped it all out, that number, and then I backed out how many clients did I need to book in order to go and make that dream happen, make that goal
Yeah.
happen, how much easier it all became rather
Yes.
than it being like this other arbitrary, like, oh, one day I want to do that. And oh,
Yes.
when we like hit these goals in the business, but like when I actually said, okay, oh, I just need to book 5 clients, like 5 invitation clients, and then boom, get to check that off. I actually
Yeah.
had something I found I was working towards.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That it's what I've seen over and over again with my both myself and my clients. It's like when you have a purpose for your money, the money tends to find its way into your life, right? But if you're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I just want to just have it just to have it or just to see it in my account," right? Like nobody is out here working super hard to just roll around in a pile of money. I mean, it's dirty, it's gross, and then you have to go redeposit it anyway, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
really about the money. It's about what the money can provide for you. And so that's why I think you spot on. It's just like if you can tie your revenue goals to what that actually means. Same thing with, you know, like a course. If you buy a course, it's like, okay, well, what am I looking to get out of it? What's my ROI, my return on investment for this course, you know, long term. So I just think it's really smart to start thinking like that. Because one, I feel like it cuts down on people's squirrel syndrome.
Mhm.
And two, I think it keeps us focused on what it is that we're out here to create. And it helps us stay focused on the life we want to create and not get caught up in that success wheel that's so tempting as an
Yes.
entrepreneur where it's like we just want to do more, we want to do it better, we need to do it bigger,
Mhm.
like more. It's like why, like what is it for?
Yes. Yes. I was when you said, at the beginning there when you were sharing, you were talking about, like, what's the word, what's the feeling? The word that popped immediately into my head was the word satisfied.
Mm,
Which I thought that was interesting, and
that's
I
a
think,
good
like, when
one.
I was starting to think, like, satisfied, that's an interesting word, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, like, to me, satisfied meant because our growth goal is not a crazy one, we're not trying to double numbers or triple or do anything like that, but
Yeah.
I know when we were actually doing planning just on this past Friday, my right-hand gal, Lauren and I, and we were going through the beginning stages of our planning, and we were doing, like, a lot of the things kind of that you were alluded to too, of
Hmm.
I was like, you know, what are the good things that happened this year? What were the challenges? What were the lessons learned? Like, what's on our wish list of things?
Yeah.
You know, even before we get to, you know, mapping out financials and like, I was just like, what, how do we want to feel? Where do we feel like we're doing our best work and we're like, we're
Yeah.
really serving people in a bigger way? And so we were putting all those things out there, and honestly, like when we took a step back at the end of like we were on probably for about 4 or 5 hours on Zoom. It was crazy.
Hmm.
We looked back at, you know, everything we had done, and I'm like, wow, I'm actually not creating a lot of new things like new
Hmm.
products and new programs. There's only really just one thing that we're creating that's new, but
Yeah.
all of it is just everything we've already built in the business. I just want to amplify it more and
Hmm.
create more content that brings people into it. And so to me, that word satisfying almost speaks to that of like, hey, I don't have to reinvent the wheel here. I'm not changing
Yeah.
the whole business. It's like, we've built the foundation. Now it's just about attracting more people in. And I will feel satisfied knowing that like it's good enough. I don't have to keep creating. Yeah.
Yes. No, I totally agree. And even if you think about the words, when I think about satisfy, the first thing that came to mind was food. It's also lunchtime, almost
Yeah.
lunchtime here. But if you think about it, when you say I'm satisfied with this meal, like it tastes good, like you ate enough where you're not hungry, but you didn't, go all like Vegas buffet on it where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so full and stuffed. I'm like unbuttoning my pants and I'm like overly full where it's almost uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the same thing that I think I've seen a lot of people do in business where it's like, well, I have this revenue goal. I have to do something different. What are they doing? They're adding even more to their plate when it's like if you kind of take some off or if you simplify or streamline whatever that looks like in your business, you're going to be at that point where you're satisfied and you're not too full. Your calendar's not too full. Your clients aren't too full. Like it's just the right amount. So I like that word.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm like, we've been thinking about our words of the year. I'm curious, do you have a word of the year that you're thinking about for 2024?
Yeah, so the one that popped in my mind, and it came up right when I woke up a few weeks ago. So I'm like, this must be the word because all my good stuff comes like right when I wake up. But it was stewardship, like really just taking really great care of what I've been entrusted with. So my health, my finances, my kids, my marriage, like really just taking care of it, as opposed to just again always looking for more things to
Yeah.
like be on my docket and more to take care of. It's like what's already in my hand and how can I make it bloom and grow?
No, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I feel like there's like been a shift I mean, I even say it's in the more in the last couple of months. I wouldn't say like the last couple of years, but the
Hmm.
last couple of months, I've noticed people feeling like they're approaching like life in this way. And I could be more of like just like our stage of life
Hmm.
and where our, families are growing and things like that. I feel like as your children get bigger, you start to feel more a little wise in your, older years,
Yeah.
middle age. But it's like I feel like there's not as much striving that I'm noticing from people. I'm feeling a lot of people just wanting to feel more contentment and
Yeah.
feeling more peace and satisfied and like feeling like they're being good stewards of the gifts they have. And
Yeah, I
if
agree.
growth happens with that, great. But it's like I just don't feel like there's that energy. Do you feel like that too?
Yeah, I feel like our industry, when I say industry, I just mean like online business in general, goes through these trends. And I do agree. I do kind of feel like that, like I need to get my life back type of feeling online. I mean, I even did that myself. Like I completely got off of social media for the most part. And I just find myself, one, buying less, and two, just not really comparing myself to others. But, I think we're coming
Mhm.
out of this very long phase we were in of like hustle and grind culture. Always, it's just like, okay, we need these big mega launches and it's like do all these things and it's like pedal to the metal type of energy, right? And before that was the whole, oh, all you have to do is open your laptop and sit at the beach and you're going to make millions of dollars, right? Like I
Yes.
think we have all these like phases and I think people are getting burned out from that. Like you see industry leaders who just have just up and disappeared and shut down everything, or I'm doing a closeout sale and selling everything in my business because
Yeah.
I'm redirecting or I'm going to therapy, and I'm a big fan of therapy, so that's no knock to that. But it's very extreme to go from hustle, 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 make all the money to like, ooh, I'm burned out, peace out, I'll see you all later. And so I think
Mm.
having that balance is important. That's why I'm saying tying our business revenue, our business goals back to our personal finances, and our personal finances being driven by what do we want out of life? Like, what does that really mean? I think
Mhm.
that's the key because when people like, I think the mistake is people think personal finance is like, oh, retirement. No, I'm not waiting until I'm retired to have fun. Like, I want to, I do plan on being a sexy grandma who lives past the age of 100, of course.
Yes.
But that's like a good 60 years away. Like, I can't just wait for that. I want to live my life now. And it's just like, why are we working? Like, what, I think we just have to get to the why. Why are we doing all of this? Right. And it's like
Mhm.
living it now instead of later, later, later. Because for some people, I mean, not to be morbid, but later, it sometimes can come a lot sooner than we think. So
Yes.
I'm all about taking advantage of what we have right now.
Ah, I'm curious when you mentioned about how you've left social media. So that was an intentional choice that you were like, was it more of you were tired of social media, or was it I want to build this business in a different way, or combination of all of those things?
Whew, all the above. I mean, how much time do we have, right? But
Yes.
really, at the end of the day, I was like, okay, it started off with, I need to be more present on social media because I was just posting on my private Facebook, my personal page, not even my business page. And then doing the research as I do with my personality, I'm trying to be the best on what's out there. I just got sucked into the whole of social media. So not only was I scrolling and I thought it was 10 minutes and it was like, oh, actually, it's been 45 minutes. But then I found myself, one, buying random things. And then two, just the overwhelming feeling of comparing myself to others and thinking I'm far behind. I should be further ahead than what I am. Oh, look how polished their stuff is. Or what do I have to offer? What am I going to say that's so different than everyone else? Knowing I provide great value to my clients. So it was just a lot of noise, a lot of people in their own way saying what I should do in my business, and oh, here's the solution, just buy this thing. And I'm just like, wait, like it was just so much noise. I'm like, I'm going to shut it all down, quiet it all, and remind myself, I'm like, I'm a smart person. I started my business with one book, and that book had, I don't even know, like exponential return on investment because it was like $8. And so I'm just trying to get back into me and my intuition and all of those things. And so that's why I was like, social media's got to go. I took it off my phone because I know myself. If it's on there, I'm just going to check it.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting just to see the impact you have on your life. Like I'll find myself scrolling. I'm like, you're scrolling through your calendar. Like you're so used to scrolling.
You
It's like, do you
replaced
really
it.
care what you're doing in April 2024? You don't. You're just used to scrolling through your phone to try to get information. That's
Yeah.
when I was like, wow, this is a problem, you know? And it's just like something we don't notice when we're entertained. And we have to remember they designed these things to do exactly that. So I just had to, at the end of the day, just had to quiet the noise and get back to myself.
And how long has it been since you've been off?
Ooh, I would say I think it was sometime around August where
Okay.
yeah, I was just like, okay, this is good. This is enough. I think I popped on once because my father had passed, so I wanted to say something about that. But that was pretty much it. And even that felt like a burden, like oh, I should post something on social media. My husband and I went to Greece and Turkey a month ago, and I was like, oh wait, I should post this to social media. Like it feels like a burden rather than something I'm like, hey, look what we did. You know, I'm just kind of like over
Yeah.
it, kind of over it,
Got
and I
it.
just want to
Now
build my business my way.
I'm curious of how are you marketing your business? Like how are you bringing in new leads? Is there like a different method that you're utilizing?
Yeah, so my business, I mean, since I started on financial coaching solo, which has been about 3 years, I think at this point, 2 to 3 years, it's all been like referrals and networking and speaking on
Mhm.
stages. And thankfully, people enjoy their experience of working with me. So I've really just been riding off of referrals that have been very consistent. I limit myself to 12 clients that I work with at once because I like a nice high touch situation and I don't want to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Same thing with, getting off of social media. Like, how do I want to feel? And what I said earlier, I want to feel peace. I want to feel like I'm making a difference in people's lives. So I don't really need a whole lot of people to have a full business. So that
Yeah.
has really helped me a lot. And then in 2024, I love podcasting. So I'm going to get back into that because it's something I enjoy. It's something
Yes.
that lives on for a while. And so it kind of checks a lot of the boxes of what I'm looking for. So podcasting, and then I have my email list that I've built up before. So those are the things I'm comfortable with that I'm going to just stick with what I do because I don't, it's like less of a hurdle to do it and it's also
Mhm.
effective. So,
Oh yeah, for
yeah.
sure. I'm a big fan ever since I started podcasting again. I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now,
Hmm.
off and on. It's like it's a seasonal thing of like, I'm in the
Yeah.
season, I'm like, I'm here ready to do all the podcast recordings, and then there'll be just months or even a year that will go by that I'm like, "Nope, podcast is in the baby in the back." Like, just we'll go see that when I feel like it. That was
Yeah.
a terrible analogy right after I said that.
As long as you don't forget the baby in the back, we're good, right?
Well, anyway, but I'm like I'm such a big believer in what you're talking about following your own intuition and what you're
Mhm.
guided to do in each season, and that every season can look differently.
Yeah.
There's actually a marketer who I started following a couple of years ago. Her name's Danielle Gardner, and she calls herself the quiet marketer.
Mm.
And I'm attracted to things like that because I don't think of myself as a quiet person or a
Mhm.
quiet marketer. I feel like I'm one who does like, tries to, I like to keep up with like lots of different things. That's just my natural experimental personality.
Yeah.
But I am always fascinated and I like to hear about experiments of, taking breaks from social media and just relying on different methods to go and market your business. And one of the things that I can see that comes out of it, especially with her particular,
Mhm.
is that I know she only emails me maybe like once or twice a month. So because I know that, when I see an email come in my inbox, I read it,
Yeah.
rather than sometimes maybe a marketer that might, email, several times a week or several, I'm like, oh, I'll get to that eventually and just delete, delete, delete. And so
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by all of this and these different experiments. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I figured, like I said before, like this is the life we have, right? As far as
Mhm.
I know, this is the only life we have, and I want to make the most of it. And that doesn't mean just doing something because I'm supposed to or
Yes.
because everyone else is doing it. And if I have to drag my feet to make it happen, then it's not fun. Like, how do I make this fun? Not necessarily always easy, right? Because there
Mhm.
are things that we might not feel like I don't always feel like going to the gym, but it's good for my health. So what's the most fun workout I can have today? That's what I'm going to do. So it still requires effort, but it's just like, how can I enjoy it? Like, how can I enjoy what I do?
Yeah. I have a question for you in regards to keeping up with your numbers
Hmm.
on a monthly basis. So I find sometimes with my clients, a lot of them, the ones that I work with one on one within my Coterie Mastermind, a lot of them I'm getting set up on doing KPI dashboards for the first time, knowing what
Hmm.
their monthly revenue is, how many products sold, how many people are visiting their website, email subscribers, so like that sort of thing.
Hmm.
But I know it's a chore for people, especially when you're first getting started. Like
Yeah.
doing those things, it takes you. I remember when I first did it years ago, like it takes you a long time to get used to like looking at those numbers and getting
Yeah.
comfortable. And one of them even asked me, Amber, like, one, this is hard work. And I agreed with her. I said, yeah, in the beginning it is.
Hmm.
Till you get used to it. But I said, secondly, she asked me, she's like, how often should I be doing this? Or like, what feels good for you? Or how often are you looking at these things? And so I kind of shared my perspective on KPI dashboards. So we're not really talking about my financial, like
Right.
bookkeeping ones. But on the KPI side, I was like, oh, well, usually we're looking at them a couple of times a month. I wouldn't say once a week, but at
Hmm.
least mid-month so we can see how we're tracking to goal and so forth. And so when I think about that on the marketing side and sales and marketing, and then I think about it over on the financial side, I'm at a place in my business now where I have a CFO in my business. So they're producing dashboards for me on a weekly basis. I'm getting profit and loss statements, at the
Hmm.
end of the month. And so I'm just curious, like, where do you think is like the sweet spot of people of what numbers they should be looking at and like what's the frequency of them?
Yeah. So on the personal finance side, the numbers I have people look at are cash flow. So that's going to be your income minus expenses. And I mean income that's actually hitting your bank account, not,
Hmm.
what's on your pay stub or anything like that, because we have taxes and things like that. And then your expenses. So that's cash flow. And then the
Hmm.
other number I have them track is their net worth. So that's your assets minus your liabilities. What do you
Hmm.
own minus what do you owe? So those are the two numbers I have them track. Some people are anti-budgeting, and I work with all sorts of people. I personally find budgeting to be very empowering. I like to know and
Yeah.
tell my money where to go. For my clients who are budget adverse or who like, break out in highs if I say the B word, for them, I have them do it once so we can see like, hey, is there anything that you're actually paying for that you forgot you were paying for? Like, those random subscriptions that we forget about. We can eliminate some of that. And then all I have them do is just what's the monthly amount you can commit to applying towards your financial goals. And if once you commit to that and you're comfortable with that, I just have them automate it. So if they don't
Hmm.
want a budget, they don't have to, and they're still on track with their goals, assuming they're not going to overspend. But a lot of them, their ATM receipt ends up being like their how they check where they are. It's like it's not zero, whew, we're good, right?
Yes.
So really, and then there's a whole spectrum of people who want to do it line by line. So it's just you have to figure out what works for your personality, but you do need to know what your cash flow is. And then as far as
Hmm.
net worth, I would say check that quarterly. And again, we try to automate as much as possible. So it's just like have that either go to a dashboard that we can set up for you, or if you want to use any apps that where you can link all of your accounts, however you want to do it, it is important to do that. I would say quarterly. It probably doesn't need to be more than that. And I just use that as like your financial scorecard. It just kind of lets you know where you are, especially if you're on a journey where you're paying down debt or you're looking to accumulate savings for retirement or college or buying a
Yeah.
home or whatever it is. It's helpful to see your progress with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We use Mint in our household,
Hmm.
and that was really helpful to see because we had so many different accounts from different corporate jobs of different 401ks and things, and
Yeah.
all those. I was about to say Roth. I'm going to say all the wrong words because that's not my area. I always call my husband. He's kind of the CIO and the CFO in our household.
Uh-huh.
Um, but what's funny when you were talking about personalities and what people's personalities are, we go on a national park vacation every summer as a family,
Hmm.
and it's a pretty big expense. Like it's our big family vacation, and about two vacations ago, I started building a budget for it, and
Hmm.
it wasn't even a budget per se. It was just tracking like how much is this actually costing between hotel and car rental and all
Yeah.
these places that you have to eat in these obscure places that you would think a national park, oh, it's not going to be very expensive. No, the food is ridiculously expensive because
Yeah,
they're in the
because where
middle of
else are you gonna
nowhere.
go?
Yeah, you're in the middle of
Yeah.
Montana. Like they can charge whatever they want. So
Yes.
anyway, But I found that was so much better for my personality, who likes to experience everything. Like
Mhm.
I want to go on vacation and like not splurge. I don't need to be over the top, but I want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
My husband is very much more cautious and wants to be more safer and like, where, oh my gosh, where is this going? And so I found it was really good for our relationship and
Mhm.
marriage when I started building out these trackers for the vacation, so I could be like, oh no, this is what I budgeted, like this is actually the amount I expected, or
Yeah.
oh look, the hotel didn't end up being that, like we actually saved $200,
Yeah.
and I found that that was like the best thing I could have ever done when we started doing that 3 years ago.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like if you're married or you have a partner or anything like that, it is important to figure out how are you all going to work together with your finances because the synergy is there, right? A lot of times people are like, "Oh, my spouse is like horrible with money," or like I'm horrible with money. It's just like, no, 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 no. You each have something to bring that's going to make you all stronger together when
Yeah.
working with your finances versus just focusing on what the conflicts are. Right.
Hmm.
So if like someone's more laid back and they're like, this is my husband, he's very laid back. He does not care about my color coded spreadsheets. I'm very much like, look, I've balanced the budget down to the penny. He's like, okay, whatever. But he's also the one that brings like the life and the vitality to what it is that we're doing when I can sometimes be overly restrictive if we're, going for a goal where it's like, we don't actually have to cut this out and still meet the goal. And I'm like, okay, fine.
Hmm.
Right. So it's like looking at, well, how do you all work together? Because I promise you, no matter how bad do you think you or your spouse is with money, there is something they can add to the conversation that's going to make it better than you would be able to do on your own.
For sure, for sure. I always think about like to like I'm in our family, I do like to track the expenses, like do the categorize. I think about
Mhm.
like the bookkeeping, that's what it is. I
Yeah.
think back to when I used to do the bookkeeping in my business. I loved categorizing transactions like, oh, that belongs in that bucket, that one and
Yeah.
that one. And so I find in the months we're not perfect, and so I'd say like probably maybe 33% of the year I'm doing that, right? The
Uh-huh.
other ones we're spending. We're living life, whatever, doing our things and not
Yeah.
really tracking things as well. But I find his personality is like if it isn't tracked, then it's a terrible, it's something bad. Like,
Mhm.
and so it's always interesting because whenever he feels that way, I'm like, oh, wait, let me go and categorize. Like, let's see where everything's going. And I'm
Yeah.
like, look, this is actually what the numbers show us. And it's actually paints a way better picture than you think it is. And I
Mhm.
find that happens in the business side too, in the clients that I coach. When I get them tracking KPIs and numbers, I'm like, you're sometimes painting a completely different picture in your head of what the reality
Yeah.
is.
Well, at the end of the day, it's just facts, right? Facts over feelings
Yeah.
sometimes, where it's just like, oh, I feel like this isn't working. And so you look and you're like, but you have like a 3x return on like your Facebook ads or something like that, right? Or it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this was such a tiny launch. It's like, yes, but you also sent out half as many emails and you still pretty much hit your goal. So it's like at the end of the day, you have to kind of take a look. And that's what I find what happens too with my clients is we sit down and even if they're a little bit hesitant to do that initial budget, a lot of times they're like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was. I was like, this is what happens when you look at the numbers and you don't ignore them. Like you have no idea how close or far away you are from your target if you're not looking at where you are, right? So it's like
Yes.
that one scene. I mean, the movie was really cheesy, but I really like this scene. It was Facing the Giants. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It was like a
Mm-mm.
football movie. But anyway, so they were doing some exercise where I guess the the guy was like bear crawling on the football field and he had his partner or one of his teammates on his back. And I guess going 20 yards was like a big, big deal. So the coach blindfolded him and had him start at the end zone. So for those who are not familiar with football, it's the part where you score. You have one on one side, you have one 100 yards away. And he was like, okay, just get started. And the guy kept asking, like, well, how far are me? How far am I? How far am I? He's like, don't worry about it. Just keep going. Long story short, he makes it down the entire 100 yards of the football field and like his team is like rooting him on. It was like a really great scene because it's talking about more so like our self limitations about things we put on, but it's also more so about just tracking, right? Like, so he wasn't tracking intentionally because he knew that was going to be a limitation. So you have to kind of know how it
Mm.
works for you, but it was just a really good scene.
That's a really great story. I think that's really helpful. And I love that you put it in there with a little football connotation because I know you're a big college football
Oh, I
fan,
love
right?
it. We're number one right now. I'm so excited. Michigan. Woo, go blue.
Michigan. Okay, I was asking, I'm like, hey, what's your team? I'm
Yeah.
Tennessee. That's my team. And yeah, we're nowhere near anything. I know it's like 'tis the season for all the
Yes.
bowl playoffs and the championships are coming.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a fun time of year. One little final thing before we wrap up. The other thing, I'm curious of I just want to go and add this fun little note. You helped me when my daughter was doing a little bit of pageant
Yes,
work here at
yes.
the
We'll have to catch
county
up on that.
fair, the local county fair, and you were giving me some tips and whatnot. I'm curious of, because you were, in the pageant world. You can share
Mhm.
about that here in a minute, but how has that like relayed into the work that you do now?
Oh gosh. Okay, so let me tell you this. If you can walk across stage in like a two-piece bikini and then get interviewed by 8 to 10 different judges at the same time in the midst of 8, in a short span of 8 minutes, you can pretty much do anything. So
Yes.
for me, just being in pageants, it was mostly high school and college. I competed in the Miss America system and I did the Miss USA system once. I was just very short, so I only did that 1 year. It just really helps you to like be clear on what it is that you believe. It allows you, yeah, I think it's helped me articulate what I do very well. I'm at home when I'm on stages. Like it's not even
Mm.
like a preparation thing. Like you put me on the stage and I can just do whatever it is you need me to do. And I can do it well. And so I think I got a lot of that from pageants. And it's
Wow.
just been fun.
It has been fun. That was fun. It was neat to see. I mean, I got to see you multiple times at the Marketer's Heart event because you've just you do have that stage confidence. Like it's so neat to see you go out there and really, I think those years of practice of being on those stages in those different areas. And like you said, like we have to take on those questions by those judges, like
Hmm.
the spur of the moment. So like you're probably really good. I can tell obviously from this interview because you guys, I should tell you that, listeners, I don't give anyone questions ahead of time. So everything is completely unscripted here when we come to these podcasts. And you answer them so well. So I
Well,
just want
thank
to
you.
say you do a
I
good
actually
job of all of that.
I have one of my crowns here. I use it as decoration. So this
Oh, I
was
love it.
I forget which one it was because I won four, but I think this might have been my Miss Chicago crown. So the
Oh,
thing is, they don't actually give you a way to attach it to your head, so you have to put it up here. And they're trying to put all the bobby pins in, where you're like, oh, I can't believe I won, right? I mean, I was kind of like, I'm like, okay, let me act like I didn't believe I was going to win, but I kind of knew I was going to win, in a
yes.
confident, not cocky way. But yeah, so this is one of my crowns from the Miss America organization.
Oh, I love it. How fun. What a fun memento. Well, I would love to know as we wrap up, what are you growing here in 2024? What are the things that you're going to be focusing on? I know you shared a little bit about the, restarting the podcast, but
Yeah.
where's your focus going to be?
So 2024, my focus is all about how like being the best financial coach I can be. What resources do I need to do? What clients am I taking on or not taking on in regards to helping me fulfill that? And so it's going to be all about that. The podcast as well, because as I continue to grow my skill set, I'm currently in the midst of becoming a trained trauma money coach as well, because there's so
Mhm.
much mental stuff when it comes to money. So I
Yeah.
added that in there. So I want to be able to share that. So that's going to be through the podcast. I'm going to be preparing a course that's going to be more so for 2025 because I don't want to rush myself because this is going to be it's going to be like a epic course. So I really want to start focusing on that so I can use it almost as like a depository of everything that I'm learning along the way. So it's going to be private coaching, the podcast, and then it looks like I'll be starting to prepare the course. It won't be launched, but it'll be prepared.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, where can everybody find you online? And I'll definitely add it over into the show notes.
Yeah, so everything that you want to find about me, well, not everything, but as in regards to business, you can go to wealthyandfulfilled.com. You'll have multiple ways to join the email list, and the email list is like the place to be. It's where you get all the exclusive offers and things like that. Because again, not really into doing big launches in 2024. I've taken that off my plate just for more joy and ease and peace in my life. And but the email list is where you'll find out about everything. So you can get that at wealthyandfulfilled.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I'll link that in the show notes. And I just want to say thank you for stopping by today.
Oh, thank you so much, Amber, for having me. It's been a blast.